Can we put that in with the bid for just having somebody doing the access paths? I mean, if these guys are going out,
Yeah.
whoever guys.
It's only it's probably, I don't know, 3-4 hours worth of work to see if you can do that access pass in that landfill. It's not a lot of work.
I would incorporate it all together if the budget allows, and it certainly makes sense. You're gonna have the people out there, the equipment, you guys are gonna be out there, somebody's gonna be out there telling, here's what to do with 90, here's what to do with 54, boom. And just tell them, hey, I don't know if
It's pretty clearly defined.
it is on the access path.
You can add it to the scope of work if the board wants.
Let's add it to the scope.
I would, yeah.
Jim?
Yes.
Jim?
Yeah.
Philbrook, can you find out from the powers to be what the threshold is on the dollar value for going out to bid, or how many bids you need, or you can just have somebody do it, or what point do you have to, you know, it gets
What point
totally
is-
involved?
At what point do you have to go to a legit bid?
It used to be
Seal.
$10,000.
Well, there's something happened at 10, and then something happened at 25, where you had a post.
Yeah.
But I think those levels have been increased, and I just, it would be nice if we knew where we stood,
Sure.
because the more we keep adding on to this, the closer that $10,000 is getting, and it's like, yeah, we as a board should know what our limits are. So I don't know if you can kind of get to the bottom of.
No, I'll definitely find out from our finance director, procurement officer, when do we have to go to bid now? The rules have changed, correct? I think it went higher.
It did.
But we want to make sure that we are doing it correctly when we go to, try and obtain some kind of bids for the scope of work that we put forward. So, I will check, and I will definitely let the board members know.
Thank you. Gary, anything else? You're done? That's it?
Mr. Chair.
35 minutes? Yes.
So Kathleen touched upon those houses on Burlingame Road that are outside of that 500-foot radius. This board's had discussions, and not concerns, but we've had discussions and concerns for some of those houses in that area. And I don't know if this board wants to have another discussion on that.
I'm all for discussion. I recall this discussion. There were some houses that were along Burlingame Road where they were voluntarily testing the water, and was that at the expense of the town? I'm trying to remember. It's been a
So
while.
CMG did some
Yeah.
testing of wells on Burlingame at the request of the town.
Dated approximately
I'm thinking before that comprehensive site assessment, I'm gonna say 2006.
5 years, 10 years,
Maybe
12 years.
Probably,
Oh, wow.
at least, yeah. I'm thinking 10 years. I don't know. Memory's not as good as sharp as it used to be. But yes, we did some testing, didn't find anything. We tested voluntarily, I think it was 6, 8, 10 homes, I think, one year asked us to do it. And we tested for not all the landfill parameters, but the general landfill parameters and drinking water concerns. Back then, 1.0 oxygen would not have been tested for, or if it was, it would have had a much higher reporting limit. So it would have probably been at 3 or 30 versus 0.3. So,
Based on your professional opinion, we all know that that is downgrading from the landfill. I personally know somebody who has I think it's a 600-foot deep well down there, and they are at the pretty lowest end of Burlingame.
that's where we tested last time, right? In that valley down there where the river crosses. Is there a possibility? Yes. Are you mandated by the DEP to do it? No, it's not within 500 feet. Is it prudent? That's a discussion for you guys.
And that's why I'm kind of glad you brought that up, because the last thing I want to do with the knowledge that we have based on what happened at Southbridge landfill, and what happened with some folks and their water. Last thing I want to do is have somebody test their water down there and have some exceedance that I don't know how to put it. I'm not just going to shut up. I think because I think it's prudent to maybe allow some limited testing, regardless of, I don't want to spend $100,000, but it may be a decent thing to do, yes, Jim.
Keep in mind, we did not budget for this,
Right.
so we'd have to go for additional funding, because what we funded was exactly for what the bid was, and anything above and beyond that, we would have to go before and ask for additional funding.
Okay.
I don't know how expensive it would be, it's being prudent, but it's not calculated in that we would run out of money.
Gary, just curious, to do the testing with the 1,4-dioxane, are we talking 800 to 1,000?
1,4-dioxane test is about $250 a test right now.
Plus
just for
the other-
analytical. If you're gonna do that, you're gonna do the VOC test, because at the landfill, the only real contaminants of concern are 1,4-dioxane and the VOCs, the nitrates and other things, they're not catastrophic. So it's about $100 for that and about $250 for the other, so you're looking at about $350 just for lab work. And generally you double that for a couple hours, 3-4 hours of our time, so, you know, you're $700.
Per
Round
household.
number,
For
round number,
Per household.
$700 to $1,000 a house.
How many houses do we talk
I want to say it was.
That would be up to us.
Yeah, it would be a few. I think last time we did it in the range of 6 to 8.
It was a half a dozen.
Yeah, it was 6 to 8.
We could even pull a lottery and say there's 6 houses and do 4 of them, so, you know,
With their permission.
Now,
with their
she
permission.
advised, and case in point with the residents that are sitting here,
Yeah.
if we find 1,4-dioxane,
Mhm.
tag you're in, because it's in the landfill. If we find 3 other VOCs, which I have listed here, MEK, TCE, and I have to double check. Tag you're in. If we find MTBE, I'm not sure if you're in. If we find other things,
But doesn't this also trigger the 500, then
so,
they say,
so let's talk about that. If we sample a home on 12 No Name Street, and it's proximal to the landfill, and we find 1,4-dioxane, if it's more than 500 feet away from the landfill, it doesn't automatically trigger that DEP tie back to the landfill. If it's 500 to 600 feet directly down grade and we talk to DEP, it's probably gonna get tied to the landfill. Even if it's below the standard, because we have it above the standard, we have it. Just the mere detection of it. If it's above the standard, whether it's 1,4-dioxane or MTBE or benzene or anything, if it's above the standard, that requires notification and taking care of it. If it's detected and below the standard and more than 500 feet away from the landfill, there's really nothing required. If it's below the standard, because again, it's a drinking water standard. People smarter than me have said it's okay to drink that. I know there's people here and me that don't want to drink it, but I'm just telling you what the standard says. So, you know, it's a
So question
catch-22.
to the chair.
Yes.
If, say we did find it in the standard, would that initiate another 500 square feet?
It would potentially initiate another 500 linear feet around that well if DEP, yes, it's gonna trigger. I'm just trying to think of how it would. It wouldn't if it was just by itself and had nothing to do with any. But these wells we're talking about are certainly within 1,000 feet and certainly the potential to come from this source. So yeah, once you get a hit, you're gonna go 500 feet. Then you get another hit, you're gonna go another 500 feet. So,
Well,
but it's,
So I'm just gonna throw it right on the table. From a public health and safety point of view, what's this board's opinion? Because that's what we are.
Kathleen,
I think we should do it, because, I mean,
There you
we're
go.
not the finance committee, we're not the board of selectmen. Yeah. We certainly don't want to waste money, but to me, there's some possibility that if I didn't get right here,
Jim, you have something to add?
I think that was
Oh, sorry.
I was just gonna say, regardless of the outcome, I don't think it's wasted money, and I know you're not saying it that way, but we test it and they don't have it, it's a home run. They test it and they do have it, it's probably a good thing we had it tested.
Right, yeah.
And the dollars, what are you gonna tell those people on
Yeah.
that area wasn't tested because,
Because we didn't think it was worth $800 to test it for your family's health.
that's, I think it's time
To
we
get a
address that.
sample, I don't know, what, 30, 40 houses probably that could be affected.
So what I recommend, if you guys want to go down this road, because this is essentially the same thing we did on Flint Road.
Right.
Before we had data on the land. What I recommend is we'll shoot you a Google Earth map, and we'll try to plot on there where the data points are at the landfills. Because you do have 1,4-dioxin in 90 Flint Road, landfill, on the backside of the landfill, proximal to Burlingame Road, but more than 500 feet. Not a lot more than 500 feet. So if I put that point and you say, okay, we want to go 1,000 feet, we want to go 800 feet, you guys make the call.
Through the chair?
Yes.
I'm gonna say, what we should do, you're saying 6, 8 houses, right? Let's put them on a lottery, and let's, if it's gonna be $800, right? Let's do 3 houses this year, done. Next year, we'll do 3 other houses, and the year after that, just like it was being done up in the other place. At least we'll have some type of data, and at least if you got your house tested, you know. But if you didn't, and your neighbor just got their tested, they're well tested, then at least you know that the neighbor doesn't have. We know that it doesn't really mean anything, but it's a starting point. It takes that budget, and now we're saying $2,500. And that crushes the budget as saying, well, we didn't have enough money to do it.
Yeah.
Speaking on that, as the director here, I'm responsible for appropriation of funds. We don't have any of the money. The scope of work has been given to Robin. She holds the money, so she pays out to Gary. In order to do this work, it's not within that scope. I think I have to, or the board's gonna have to, I'll have to speak to Robin about, the board has decided to branch out, because I can't spend money and appropriate monies that we don't have, and we don't have any money right now. We have not been, it's not, the fiscal year is not done yet, and the money is in a capital account, and has not been appropriated to this board.
Okay.
The estimate that I gave did not include that, so in order for the appropriations to spend money, it has to be appropriated properly. And I'm all for testing, but we have to do this right.
Yeah.
And we have to make sure that we have the money and it's spent accordance to how it's appropriated, and it was not appropriated that way.
So, just, and I'm not being a wise guy, I'm
No,
trying to
no.
get a better understanding of it. This money that we have appropriated for the landfill, we wouldn't be able to use it in that capacity?
I'm not saying that. We gave the scope of services of work, and that's how the money was appropriated. And that scope of services of work did not include testing Burlingame Road. I'm saying that to pay that, they're very strict now with the new finance director and stuff, how they're paying out bills. They want to show that it was appropriated properly and how you used it. There's checks and balances. I need to make sure that, to let the powers to be know that the board has decided to test additional wells that are not within the scope of what we asked for. And that's,
So much money.
exactly, because how are we gonna pay that? Because the bill's gonna go into the finance director for testing Burlingame, you know what, she's gonna kick it back.
Yeah, no, I think we should get the money ahead of time. I
Do-
mean,
yeah.
I'm not.
Do we have money for testing of wells?
Right now, no.
We don't have, not even on Flint Road?
No, the money that we have is not here till July
July,
1st.
right.
But then, certainly we have. I could say, well, we need to adjust it a little, we need to test wells, but I need to make sure that, tell them that the board has approved that we want to test wells. Because when I go to send the bill out, and he sends a bill,
Mhm.
they're very, very strict on the services that have been done, and they'll kick it back to me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Through the chair?
Yes.
If we're testing wells with, landfill account money, I don't think the finance committee or any other committee should be able to say, well, you can test Flint Road, but you can't test this, and you can do, we're testing wells with the money, and I don't believe that we're doing anything wrong with it. And I understand, Jim, what you're saying, it's very specific,
Yeah.
but I don't think that, I think that this board has the power to test any well it wants, and we can submit that bill, and if they kick it back, we can kick it back and say, no, it needs to be paid.
How about if we did this as a compromise, do a letter to Robin and somebody on finance and say, here's what the board is discussing, here's the direction we'd like to go in. We want to do some limited testing, potentially 3 houses per year on a lottery system for those downgrading from
Well,
the landfill on Burlingame Road to the tune of about
I think that's right.
$2,500 per year.
The board can choose if they feel that public health safety is, that we can test those wells, and I agree to wholeheartedly. The problem is, we won't have the money to finish paying Gary if that, and then we're at this thing where we're not complying with the DEP, because we just spent 30 grand of the money that we had appropriated to pay Gary, because there's no extra. As a matter of fact, it was less than what I asked for. So I'm only concerned about the financial end of it, that all of a sudden, I go there and they say, well, you asked for this, for that,
Where'd the money go?
where'd the money go? We have to be responsible for that.
Right.
That's all. And I have to answer to that when I go before FinCom. They were very, they approved it, and certainly I'm sure that, but when I submit the bill, I just want to make sure the scope of services are already, they know that the board has changed it up a little, and they're going to be testing some wells, and we're going to be using that funding, so I don't get a kickback, and then, because, yes, the board has the right to do anything, but the monies are controlled somewhere else,
Yes, Kathleen.
So why can't we just send a memo to the FinCom and financial director and say we'd like to increase our line item for testing of wells by
$2,500.
$3,000, and because we want to test additional wells. This is a request to increase that amount.
Robert may have that money still in another account that we don't have access to. And it may be just a matter of, we're letting Robert know that the board has decided to, and she may approve it, but I think, I'm just saying that,
I would think it could go through FinCom, wouldn't it?
well, the money's already been appropriated.
We've got the money.
The money's appropriated.
Money's at this board's.
So
But
why
I-
are
We don't
asking?
have-
I'm confused.
Because when you appropriate money, the specifically outlined of how it's going to be spent has already been outlined. But I think we could change the services, like Matt said, and say we're testing some wells on Burlingame Road. I'm saying if it gets to be a lot of money, we're gonna run out at the end and not be able to pay for the services
We're
we
only
asked
talking
for.
about 3,000.
I say we worry about running out at the end. I think
Yeah,
those people
but
have the right
it's
to
just
get the test.
I'm the one that's gonna have to submit the bill, and then they're gonna say, well, why? I just need to let you
And
know
we'll just point to you.
that
So it
the
was
board
Jim's
has
decision.
approved. Hey, I'm all,
Wait, we're on
I work at the will of the board. If the board wants it done, it's gonna get done.
Hey, I tell you what, I'd rather spend the $2,500, if that's a reasonable number,
in that number.
and test the water on those residents, than put an extra $2,500 on fixing of the berm and those requirements for DEP ones. If you, from a public health and safety point of view, I think that the testing is more important than it would be on the berm work.
Yeah.
And we just talked about taking a bill on mowing that may be $5,000 or $6,000, and now we're adding this, we're gonna do this, and that bill now, I see it just creeping up and up and up. And I see it going up more than 2,500, and then I would say, well, let's hold off on that a year then. We'll have to deal with DEP at a certain point over that. Let's get these people tested. But we came to this before about testing houses on Burlingame Road, and we hit a wall, and it's been what, maybe 2 years since we've had that chat? Or a year anyways?
At least about 2 years, I think.
It's been 2 years, they still haven't been tested.
And we'll have to get agreements with them. Some people don't want their well tested.
It's a
that's fine. Yeah, sure.
I think it should be voluntary.
Yes, absolutely. We should not
Because
force it.
we've asked people before, and they said, I tested my well.
Right.
They're afraid that you might find something in there, all of a sudden, they're a nice clean well, all of a sudden they've
And
got
then
a
they go to sell their
filtration
house,
system.
yeah.
And all of a sudden, now you open a
It's
can of
gonna have to
worms
be
for
tested
them,
before they
because
sell
they had
it anyway.
arsenic, yeah, but these older houses, they could now have radon or arsenic or something, and now they're gonna need to, what do we do then? If we find something that's not associated with the landfill, now they're, you know what I mean?
But this
Not
would be,
testing for
we're not testing for radon.
No.
We're not gonna test for metals, not gonna test
No.
for radon, we're gonna test.
You have to test for arsenic.
So I think
Well,
it's-
we don't have to, because it's not a contaminant concern of the landfill.
Yeah.
We're not doing potability
Yeah,
testing,
yeah.
we're testing for contaminants.
So you just do the VOCs
I would
and
limit
then
it so that you're not,
VOCs
Just
jeopardize
are
that.
not-
yeah, we don't want people having to put in a radon mitigation system or
I think
some
that's
other
what they were
filtration
afraid of, but
system. for something that's
You-
not.
You could even take the VOC list of the 86 VOCs and cut it down to the ones that were detected. I don't like that approach. I'd rather run
Yeah, you already
the
might as
full
well do it.
scan, because if there's something else there, they should know
And it's,
about it.
and the cost is
Same
negligible.
price.
So I think those two questions.
Yes, John Jordan.
Mr. Chairman, when Southbridge did something similar with people on Clements Hill and Pleasant Street, Andy, like Jim, contacted Microvac or another lab directly, and in the interest of public safety and everything, you could, if it was about $365 a test, you get the results back and then pay Gary to review the results. That might save some money. You could test almost twice as many homes. If Jim contacted the testing place himself and got the test orders, they come out, they do the test, they send you the results,
All at once.
and then Gary can review and save the town some money, and you can test more homes.
Okay.
I have no problem with that. Microvac, they send a good tech out, they know what they're doing. It's a great idea.
Oh, well, I think we have to find out the homes that are in that, like Gary said, we'll do a earth move, and then you can decide what homes you want to pick out. We'll have to notify them some kind of letter that the board would like to test their wells in your vicinity. There was no issue, no
cost.
problem, it's just we're being proactive to test your well, and we'll see.
Through the chair,
Yes.
I make a motion that we table the discussion of additional testing until our next meeting.
Second for discussion, why do you take?
Because we've got some homework to do.
We do need to
Yeah,
find
we
out
have-
what's going on. And I,
Okay.
what about a letter? Are we gonna-
We can get a letter.
Or talk, or at least broach the subject with town administrator, finance, somebody?
Kathleen, just to be clear, because that will give us a little time to get the target homes that we would like to test.
Yeah.
Maybe even give us enough time to write a letter, a proposed letter to those residents, so this board can review and approve or make amendments saying we'd like to test your well for this reason. Maybe get, throw it out there to other powers to be to let them know that we're doing it, but right now, we're kind of steered in a direction, but I think we could, if we table it, I'm just saying, I think we could get some more information, so the next time, maybe we can lock it in and stop for a test date.
Okay.
We'll get that information to all board
Now,
members.
one other thing, it sounds like this is the direction we're going. Jim, can you just make sure this is on the agenda so we don't lose sight of it for the next one? Thanks. Do we have to vote on that for
I
for
need a
tabling it?
motion, yeah.
So,
Table, well,
are you in agreement?
yeah.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
So we will get some more information, discuss that at our next meeting. Gary, I don't know if you're gonna be here, but regardless, you know where to find Jim.
How many do we, 6, 8?
For what?
Let me give you the
Dollars?
map and you guys make the
Yeah,
determination.
you can circle the ones, we'll let the board make
Yeah.
a decision on what you want.
Yeah, sure.
Or recommendation from Gary.
I
if
would,
it's
I would
closer.
like Gary's recommendation, just because he can look at that
I'll
and
look at
get,
what we did last time, and I'll look at the map, and I'll show you where the.
And, you know, the worst, like Matt said, at least if you test them and they all come back clean, then you did your due diligence. And
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
for a few $1,000s, I think that it's money well spent.
I do too.
I think most
That's
of
not
them
a lot of
should
money
be
compared to
happy
what we're
to
spending
know.
on other things.
And really, to be honest, I don't think we're gonna find much of anything that's a real concern, but if there is anything of concern, I think the public down in that part of the road would certainly wanna know about it.
Absolutely. If I lived there, I'd want to know.
I don't know.
You know, there's a big landfill in your backyard, you're looking up at it. Did anyone ever call and ask you to test your well? And people say, sure. I think it's a good thing.
I do too.
I think it should be done.
Okay. Well, since we've had such fun with landfill discussions, why don't we go on to Pagefoot Road, Berry Corner Road, Eleanor Lane. We have some folks here in the audience that are regulars. Yes, Jim?
I did go to the meeting at the 185 Belford Road with Butler Construction on time bond this morning at 9 o'clock.
Okay.
I did give John the schedule, that's what he's looking at now. They've already started work.
On pump station? or
Main line.
Main line, coming
They've dropped pipe, they've did some digging already
on what? Berry
on the water
Corner?
line.
On Berry Corner?
Very cool, yeah.
Okay, good.
And they want to move along. I think they don't wanna mess around, they're moving quickly. So our next meeting may be at their trailer that they're gonna have there, their on-site trailer.
They give you a target completion for being tied in?
Tentatively, they wanna put water in March,
End of May.
end of
next year.
May. It's
Next year.
I'll send, I just didn't get a chance to scan it yet, but I'm gonna scan the whole timeline to all the members so you get to look at it. This Leadville Construction wants to move.
But they're not gonna have water this year.
No, because you still gotta do the road, you gotta grind it down, they wanna make sure that there's no washouts, you still gotta allow for buses, you still gotta allow for, trash pickup was an issue, in Charlton, there's not one trash hauler on one day. You could have LaBeouf, I could have Casella, you could have, Pratt, you could have anyone you want.
Hey, you forgot mine.
We know what happened with that one. We did have an issue, with a Republic trash hauler, and, they would pick up for 3 weeks, and they'd pick up trash in Charlton. I know we discussed this before, it's a private agreement with it, but I did discuss it with the owner, or I thought was the owner's manager, and then I called the next week, he no longer worked there. And I called another manager, he no longer worked there. Finally got in touch with someone, he was very apologetic, and they did end up picking up the trash.
What was it?
They lost 3/4 of their drivers to Harvey.
Harvey came along and offered them evidently a lot more money, and they just,
They slid down.
yeah.
So instead of, didn't have anyone to do the routes, so they didn't get picked up. Yet we were getting calls, yeah, hey, I haven't got my trash pickup in 3 weeks, what's going on? And the chairman happened to be one of them.
Yeah, I wasn't happy.
No,
So, and I would call and I would get pushed off to some call center somewhere down south of Mason-Dixon line based on the.
Let me tell you, it took some phone calls, and I won't tell you how I found the number of this guy, but I'll tell you after. But certainly I got in touch with him, and he ended up being a man of his word, and they're back on track.
They did, they're back on track. He gave you his work phone and his cell phone number, and I've got that now, so.
Yes. And I
He
sent it to
probably knows
everybody.
that.
And I sent it to all his, I'm gonna send it to all his, customers.
Yeah.
But that was an issue we had to pick up, but it was bad, dumpsters starting to get really smelly.
Question?
Yes.
Sure. Somehow I have in the back of my mind that there was a September date. What happened to that,
For,
for water?
Yep,
Oh, that September date
out the window.
is out the window.
When did that go out the window?
Which line are you talking about?
Well, at Berry Pond Road.
Well, there's not even a pump station there yet, so.
No, originally,
So
Kathleen,
why,
if you
what, where did I get that?
originally it was at the public hearings, they were saying that they were hoping, you know, tentatively at the end of this year, and it was said publicly that that's when they were saying, and then as this board, we kinda sat back and said, well, hopefully, does it seem practical? Seems like they got a lot of work to do to have it done.
Right.
But it seems like it's not gonna be that way, that's why I was trying to say it out loud, when is the water coming? I know when the water's coming, but, there's a process that they have to do right now, and the process is, they put in the main water lines. So right now, all the stubs that go to the houses, all the laterals,
Yeah.
they're all proposed, it's on a print, right? So you can go to page whatever and see, okay, this section, this is where it's going. But if they put this main water line in, and they hit ledge or rock in a certain area, those have to move. So they have everything on paper, but there's no intentions of even starting to connect to the houses right now until the main water line. So that's that's how they do it. They put in the main water lines first, they get a feel for the ground, and they know what they should be able to do and where they're gonna hit roadblocks. Then they make the adjustments, and then they put the laterals in. And I think their target is the main lines in this year.
Right, so I guess what bothers me is when, and ExxonMobil did this too, with the other one. They give people a date and then that date keeps getting pushed off, pushed off. And I would assume they would have taken all these contingencies into account before they set the date in the first place.
So, just a little bit of a backstory from my limited knowledge of it, but it went out to bid. They had a proposed date and a completion date. It went out to bid. The winning bidder either retracted the bid or they did not go with the first bidder. So that I'm sure took time, now they went up to the second or whatever bidder to get them to Ludlow Construction right now.
Right.
So I knew that was the first roadblock. I believe there was a roadblock with the pump station itself, which is kind of unrelated to the lines in the ground.
Yeah.
But there was a problem, they had to order it, or they needed funding, or they couldn't get the pump station for whatever. So the pump station got set back from its original deadline almost immediately. So that was kind of happening, so that I was thinking they're gonna have the lines in ready to go, they're gonna be waiting on the pump station. But now, just discussing how the project works, they're not even getting ready to tie in the houses yet, probably until the spring, I would say.
Yeah, they're gonna, if I may, Mr.
Now
Chairman,
it's May, right?
that went to the meeting
Well,
today.
it's not this year.
Their ExxonMobil, we went to that meeting.
Yeah.
You were there for ExxonMobil, so were you at the library.
Yeah.
They gave their timelines and stuff, but I don't see any pump station, I don't see any be at work being done across the street. But I know that Ludlow said that at the end of May, they want to turn on some water, stop pressurizing. It wouldn't be potable, wouldn't be drinkable, but they want to stop putting water in that line so they can start testing it at the end of May.
On the H Foot Road,
Yes.
Berry Corner Road loop we're
Yeah.
talking.
Yeah, on that loop. The pipe is already down, you can see it on the side of the road, on the
Yeah.
very corner.
Yes.
But they've hit a lot of rock. And there's only certain size rock you can leave in there, short, and then when you put the road down, it's gonna come back up.
Yep.
Well, they think that some of the rock they put down is too big. So there was a discussion today, that you're gonna have to get some sand in there, and you're gonna have to put other stuff in, because Jerry's not gonna approve that. 'Cause when it rains and washes, those rocks are just gonna come to the surface. So there's a certain size they were discussing today that wasn't in the bid specs, but they said it deferred to Southbridge's specs. There was a little back and forth on that, it's gonna cost a little more money, but he said he'd do whatever. But certainly, that they're gonna have a second crew running in August. The road's blocked off now, as you can see, they have a police officer on each end. But it's definitely moving along, and if any board member wants to come to
It's
a
blocked out, right?
Berry Corner Road is blocked at the end, it's through traffic only. Yep.
The local traffic.
Yeah, local traffic, if you need to get through an ambulance, they'll fill it in real quick. There's no plates, they're not gonna use any plates. At night, everything's covered back in. They're staying away from doing any of the plates. They're gonna cover, at night it'll just be backfilled in.
John Jordan had,
Take an H Foot Road, for example, it has the water mains being completed on October 12th, and then another 2 months for installed water services to curb stop. Can you explain what that is?
What was that?
Another 2 months for installed water services to curb stop.
I'm not sure, I'll
So
have
the
to
mains
ask.
are done, and then it's installed water services to curb stop takes another 2 months. So I don't know what that work is, I wanted to get an explanation
I
what that
would
work
say those
was.
are your laterals.
So, yeah, there's just the laterals that are there, the curb stop.
So John, you get your main line.
Right, yeah, I understood what you said.
And then those,
So then,
The lateral is connected, at the end of the lateral is curb stop.
right,
Yeah.
That's where they can
Right, at
go
the
and
main.
shut your water
Right.
off to your house.
Exactly.
so then installed water services to houses is in March. So that's just charging with water?
Yes.
So they couldn't charge with water at the end of this year and still make it this year?
They don't even have a pump station there, so I don't know.
So that may just be because the pump station isn't in until end of this year?
no, I don't
beginning
think
of
the
next year?
lines are gonna
No,
be connected
three.
to the houses.
3 phases.
No.
The line runs down the middle of the road,
Yep, that's done October 12th.
and you've got a smaller line running from there to 5 feet into your front yard, which may be, if the line's on your side of the road, it might be 10 feet. Lines on the other side of the road,
Yep.
might be 25.
That's done December.
That's the curb stop.
Yep.
Then, the next one is from the curb stop to your house. And which sounds to me like that's the one they're gonna do in the spring.
Correct.
Is that
Okay,
what
so
that
what
means?
was that middle one you just said?
So you put the big pipe down the
Yep,
middle of the
the
road.
main, yep.
You can't connect every house right to that. So
Right.
that's got a connection from there that comes 5 feet or 8 feet onto your property.
Okay.
As a curb stop.
So that takes another 2 months,
That's
doing
the 2
each
months
one of
doing
those.
all those 10 or 20 foot lines.
I see,
Then they stop on your property.
okay.
Then they can charge that whole line, it's got all these stops on
Yep.
it. And then they go and do your individual connections.
And then from the curb stop to the
There's
house in March.
Some of these properties are pretty far off the road.
Yeah, some
Oh,
are, yeah.
So, and like Matt said, they don't know what they're gonna hit.
Right.
Okay.
And some of
Thank
this that they thought they were gonna reuse, they can't reuse now,
Reuse what?
what they dug
The
up.
gravel.
The gravel.
Oh.
It's just too big, they're busting up the stone, but it's not small enough, it's not gonna be able to compact it, and once you put the road down, it's just gonna push the road back up. So Jerry's not gonna approve that.
Jerry Foster?
Jerry
Yeah,
Foster.
highway.
There's no way. So, and I did, the timeline was given it to us today. I did give a copy to John, if you wanna post that, you certainly can, with, the information was given to me, and I'm gonna send it to the board and scan it to you. It gives you the timeline. This is for Berry Corner Road, Eleanor Lane, and H Fork Road.
You would think they're gonna shut down right around Christmas.
They are, and actually,
Yeah.
the week of the 4th of July, no work
They're
is
off.
being done. They're off. So, their company's on vacation, period.
Now, is Ludlow doing all this water line and the school loop for?
No.
No.
Okay,
No, no.
this is separate.
I have no idea it was doing Exxon
Okay.
Mobil's.
Yeah.
It's not, hasn't been decided
Has
yet.
decided. Ludlow won the bid, because the municipal bid had to go out, closed bid. The first company, as Matt said, made a mistake on their bid and wouldn't honor it, so they went to Ludlow. Ludlow was actually the lowest bid, because Polito, out of Shrewsbury, made a mistake on their bid.
Retracted.
Yep, they retracted it, they wouldn't honor their bid. Of course not, it was, I believe it was should have been $1 million instead of $1, but I guess that it happened, so. But Ludlow seems to be on the ball.
And I
don't
take it
think
they're
that's
out
any
of,
problems,
are
but
they out of Ludlow, Massachusetts?
yes.
Just putting two and two together here.
But I've been going to other meetings, we keep updated. You know, they had a problem with the trench the other day, and they corrected it. You can't be pulling out the trench size, or the actual trench with people in it. The trench box actually slipped with people in there, so they said
Oh,
that
my goodness.
no more pulling those out.
That's got